so our first player is going to be Geovanni Polanco, and you can see his accolades on the left here. World's top 16 and for in the sorry, getting a bit tongue-tied there. World Cup top 16 in 2021 and Players Cup, La Libertad special event finalist and 2 times a world invitee. So definitely no stranger to the game, a really accomplished player and running a really cool team of Among Us, Incineroar, Primarina, Golden Goat, Talonflame and Garchomp. So a nice balanced team, but Talonflame and Garchomp, a really good combination, just allowing the Garchomp to start spamming Earthquakes next to a flying type immediately.
And it's also a very good Pokemon paired with Goldengo because you could just throw out that Tailwind and spam a very fast Make It Rain, which is boosted by the metal coat that it is holding. So that's another option on that part, as well as that Primarina. We know that Primarina isn't exactly the fastest Pokemon, but EV'd just correctly and coupled with the Tailwind, and you could just see it throwing out Hyper Voices as much as it can. And yeah, this is a very offensive team with a mix of disruption in the form of that Among Us and the Incineroar.
Yeah, a nice Firewater Grass core balance. And let's take a look at his opponent, Matías Díaz's team. Matías, I think, is, as we mentioned earlier, Alignment Special Event finalist, a very, very recent accomplishment, and also special event champion. So maybe just trying to come back and get that championship again, just defending the title. But no stranger to the stage or to this game, and a really, really accomplished player. And Matías is going to be running that really team, the balance team that a lot of players are going to be very familiar with the Rillaboom, Dragapult, Primarina, Sneasel, Magmar, and King Gambit. So this is a really nice balance team that has a lot of hyper offense, but also a lot of good defensive switching.
Yeah, so we're also seeing the same, essentially, the core of the team, which is the Fire, Water, Grass, and the Dragon Steel for both sides, but they just have different choices on their parties, so it's gonna be a matter of which one is the better option here. And having seen both teams, I think on the part of Geovanni, his biggest obstacle will definitely be that Rillaboom, which can hinder the Garchomp, and at the same time that Magmar, which can prove to be, every physical attacker's worst nightmare. But now that I'm looking at it, it's not Flame Body Magmar, it's Vital Spirit. So no accidental burns happening from hitting it, thankfully, unless one of its Will-O-Wisps lands onto the appropriate targets there.
Yeah, it's also important that the Talonflame does have Taunt, so it can shut down that Magmar from going for the Follow Me's and the Will-O-Wisp, which are going to be very helpful for the Kingambit. I think that is something we're going to see Matías bringing in maybe into this match, because it just hits everything, or neutral, or super effective, minus the Incineroar, which, doesn't mind too much because it gets a free +1 attack boost if that Incineroar is brought. But I believe our game is ready, so let's jump into our games and see what our players have decided to bring into their matches.
So that's definitely Magmar, and we also see the Kingambit coupled beside it, and we see the combination that you did mention, Zoe, with that form of the Talonflame and Garchomp. So it's pretty predictable here to just see the Talonflame go for the safe Tailwind, and Garchomp, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it going for the Terra ground and throwing out an Earthquake just to dish out as much damage as it can, because as seen in the team sheet for Matías, he doesn't have anything other than that Rillaboom to take that Earthquake coming out of the Garchomp, which is definitely gonna hurt considering it's holding that Life Orb.
Yeah, that Garchomp is in a really nice position. Both the Magmar and the Kingambit are weak to ground unless they go for Terra, and maybe a Rillaboom might be lurking in the back ready to switch, and we do see a switch from Matías, and it looks like it's going to be that Rillaboom. So just trying to halve the damage of any really strong Earthquakes coming out. We see, I think, from the looks of it, yes, a turn 1 Terastallization. I think that is the Terra ground, as you called out earlier. So this Garchomp's Earthquakes and Stomping Tantrums are going to be dealing a lot of damage.
For sure, but it's also very likely that the Kingambit just goes for the safe protect in order to stall out this one turn. But at the same time, it doesn't help considering if we go into the second turn, the Talonflame will now focus down on that newly switched in Rillaboom. But at the same time, it's still 5 turns of the grassy terrain setup. So at least, but he goes straight for the Brave
Nice.
Bird! Well played on the side of Geovanni. He's probably thinking to himself, you know what, I know it's coming in, and that's my biggest obstacle, so I'll just get rid of it right now.
Very, very well played. Now we do see an Earthquake that's going to be halved in damage going up against the Pterodactyl. A nice defensive switch, defensive terrestrialization, and Kowtow Cleave now coming off onto this Talonflame. So I think that's going to knock it out at this range, which means no more taunts. And the Magmar is actually quite free to come back and start redirecting any of those really strong ground type moves and allowing that King Gambit to maybe get a Swords Dance off.
Yeah, that was a very good play on the part of Matías. At least he got rid of that Talonflame before it could make things faster or more difficult in trying to keep up. So we see here now Matías bringing out that Primarina because there is the grassy terrain. At least the earthquakes will be mitigated. So, and at the same time, Primarina being immune to the Dragon Claw coming out from the Garchomp. So it's going to be sticking on the field a bit longer than possibly that King Gambit had it not terrestrialized. But, because it's already lost that steel type, it's going to be able to stick around for much longer.
Yeah, this King Gambit actually, now that it's gone for the terrestrialization, is going to take neutral damage from steel moves from this Golden Go. So King Gambit actually just wanting to keep itself safe, scout out what Geovanni is planning on doing. And it looks like a stomping tantrum going on this Primarina. That's going to do quite a bit. I don't think it's enough to knock it out, but it is going to bring it down into the orange. And Primarina now going to snack on its berry, get its health back up. But I think we also saw the follow-up of Make It Rain from this Golden Go. But I think at this range, Golden Go not boosted probably is not going to be able to take out this Primarina.
As you were correct, Zoe, you called it. And the Primarina is able to hang on for one more turn and throw out that one Hyper Voice, which is enough. It was a critical hit on the Garchomp, so we'll have to revisit the damage calcs on that. But nonetheless, it is a fortunate outcome for Matías getting rid of that Terra Ground Garchomp. So that's one major offensive factor taken down. And I guess it's one shocking knockout after the others. We just saw the Brave Bird taking out that Rillaboom, and now we see that Hyper Voice taking out the Garchomp. So well played on the side of Matías. And I think right now, that Goldengo isn't really going to have a great time considering it's stuck at -1 from that prior Make It Rain, since it has nothing else to switch back to.
Yeah, this Incineroar now going for the fake. I'm just trying to stall the King Gambit from one turn, and Goldengo going for a nasty play, just trying to boost up its special attack. But Incineroar takes heavy damage from this Primarina's Hyper Voice, and it looks like the Goldengo is in a position to +1. So if it does get a Make It Rain off, it will be able to knock out the Primarina, and I'm not sure if it'll be able to knock out the King Gambit in this range, because the King Gambit, of course, can go for a super effective +1 Sucker Punch. So Goldengo has to be very, very careful. And Incineroar, not really going to be in a position because it's going to just be outsped by the Primarina anyway. So a bit of a pin there, but Goldengo going for the Protect just to try and maybe dodge a Sucker Punch.
Yeah, and as you just called it, there is the safe Sucker Punch being thrown out, and the Incineroar is faster than the Primarina. But it hangs on!
Invisible Focus Sash just coming out. And
this Primarina barely hung on the turn prior, and it still did the same thing. So it's doing wonders right now. This mermaid of a siren, doing very well for Matías. Yeah, this clown mermaid of a dog. So very well played for Primarina. I can't even say on the part of Matías because Primarina did it all on her own. So good job there. That makes the battle much easier for Matías. And on the side of Geovanni, he'd have to probably, consider the Rillaboom. Although he did take it out, the main problem is the grassy terrain that comes up from the Grassy Surge. That's the main problem. I think the loss of the Rillaboom didn't hurt him too much. In fact, that free switch in did help some way. And that Primarina just showing that, I'm also the MVP of this game.
Yeah, that Primarina book is actually really interesting. We got some nice information that came in that the Primarina got outsped by the Incineroar, which normally the Primarina's naturally a little bit faster than the Incineroar, so might be a bit of an indication that this Incineroar has had a lot of speed training to get those faster, knockouts and maybe a faster parting shot as well, because this way, I think Geovanni now knows that his Incineroar is faster. He could potentially go for a parting shot. This Primarina is not the throat spray set, so it can't boost up its special attack. So that is something that's really worth knowing. But of course, he has to watch out for that King Gambit. That was in the back. That just was such a pain. He stayed on the field that game from turn 1 and just, once it Terra Darked, it wasn't that weak to any ground type moves and took that Earthquake really, really comfortably.
Yeah, and some final notes going back into before we get back into the second game is that you did mention that the Primarina doesn't have the boosting item for itself, and it makes sense considering that they're both running Haze to make sure, as I did mention earlier, your answer to Dondozo. So yeah, very good answer. So I think we're ready to get into game 2. So yeah, let's just see how well Geovanni adjusted for that mitigating grassy terrain, and yeah, we'll just have to see it from there.
Yep, let's jump into our game 2 and sorry, I'm getting a little bit
Anytime.
Okay,
there we go.
I think I just need to adjust my microphone a bit. Looks like Rillaboom King Gambit coming off, so immediate grassy terrain against the Amoonguss in the Golden Go. So a really nice adjustment. The Amoonguss coming in, of course, not going to be able to affect the Rillaboom, but it's going to be really great at redirecting away any sort of super effective hits from the King Gambit. Also just being able to go for a Spore onto the King Gambit.
Yeah, and I think on the part of Matías, he probably realized there's no point in switching in the Rillaboom to try and set up the grassy terrain when you could just lead with it from the very start and mitigate those strong earthquakes coming up from the Garchomp. So yeah, we see the Rillaboom going for the safe fake out because nobody wants to get spored by an Amoonguss. But wow, we see the nasty plot being set up for the Goldengo. So it's an indicator, but we see the matching swords dance on the side of Matías. So both players probably thinking of the same approach. Yeah, both players probably thinking of the same approach, that they want to set up and end the game.
Yeah. And now this Amoonguss is quite free to Spore. I think maybe a Magma is going to switch in from this Rillaboom switching out. Maybe we're going to see a Protect coming off from this King Gambit, just to make sure that it does not get put to sleep this turn. And yes, indeed, that's what we see. And here is where we see Magma's Vital Spirit ability coming in very useful, because it can just redirect away all those spores. And Golden Go is then forced to go for a not very, but that still did very good damage onto a Magma that resists Steel type moves.
Yeah, but we have to consider that was a plus to make it rain coming from the Goldengo. So although it is now down to -1, I think that was decent damage being thrown out to the Magmar, considering that it did resist it. And that slight recovery there indicates that the Magmar will most likely take one more hit from that Make It Rain. So it's a safe redirection for the Spore, but Geovanni already predicting that makes a safe switch out for a better position on the board to properly address what's coming to them.
Oh, a very, very nice switch in from the Primarina. Just comfortably tanks that overheat, and Golden Go now going to protect itself from that +2 Cowtail Cleaver now. The Primarina, I'm guessing that Geovanni knows his Primarina is faster than the King Gambit, so he can get that haze off and just wipe away the boost from this King Gambit, and that's not something that Magma can redirect, and indeed, Hyper Voice also just hits that Magma for super effective damage, so a really, really nice switch in here, and we see, I think, Geovanni, taking the time to think about what moves he wants to lock into, and Golden Go looks like it's just gonna go for another Make It Rain.
Yeah, because that would pair well with the follow-up haze to just get rid of it, since, Goldengo would be down to -1, and the haze would also take out the Swords Dance boost coming out from that King Gambit and doing amazing damage onto that newly switched in Rillaboom. So, yeah. Oh, but wow, Geovanni chose to go for the straight-up Hyper Voice instead of the haze, and I guess because of that, the Goldengo is gonna get punished.
Golden Go, of course, I think it's done quite a bit of work in this game. It was able to take that Rillaboom down into the red. King Gambit's also taken a lot of chip damage, considering that it resists the Make It Rain, and also gotten quite a lot of nice chip onto onto Matías' side, and now this Talonflame is going to come in. Is this the, let me just quickly have a quick look. It's not a Covert Cloak, it's a Sharp Beak Talonflame, so it will be susceptible to any sorts of fake out from this Rillaboom. It doesn't carry Protect either. Oh, actually, yes, it does. Sorry, my mistake there. It's just gonna keep itself safe. So Primarina and Talonflame just going to burn that turn of fake out, and if that King Gambit does go for a Swords Dance, we did see Primarina outspeed the King Gambit, so it is. Actually, King Gambit now going for another Swords Dance.
Goodness.
But Talonflame can go for a priority Brave Bird onto the King Gambit. It might not be enough to KO at this range, but of course Talonflame can just go for a Tailwind and Haze and ensure that the Primarina is faster. But Primarina also is heavily threatened by that Rillaboom, because there's no more terrestrialization options left for Geovanni. So you're pretty close position here on both sides.
Yeah, that's definitely a play. Assuming the Primarina survives a Grassy Glide, because that's an alternative that, although the Talonflame could set up the Tailwind, that Rillaboom could throw out a Grassy Glide boosted by the terrain. But I do believe the terrain has just expired, right?
It looks like it,
yeah, there would be no priority anyway, so but we do see it switch out anyway, so I guess Matías wanting to reset that terrain in order to it does provide good recovery, and finally we do see the haze coming out of Geovanni's Primarina, so that King Gambit is back to neutral. Yeah, that's pitiful damage right now.
That's a very sad Kowtow Cleave, and really nice prediction from Geovanni's side. They're predicting that the Rillaboom is not going to want to attack this turn and not want to take a potential Brave Bird. So now Amoonguss in a really nice position against both the Primarina and the King Gambit, and are free to go for spores, but of course the Rillaboom and the Magma in the back are both unaffected. So if Geovanni picks the correct target, he'll be able to get a sleep off, or Matías could just play it safe, go for the Protect, and switch in either the Rillaboom or the Magma in the back, just to make sure that the Amoonguss is not that disruptive.
Yeah, and I think from the view of how Matías is playing, he's probably wanting to play conservatively and safely, considering he's already gotten that Game 1 win. And most of the time, when you're already in a scenario such as this one in Game 2, you want to try and clutch out the safest win possible instead of, gambling it through, like what happened in Game 1, where he easily lost that Rillaboom to a Brave Bird.
Ooh.
Oh! Wow, we both got surprised by that survive, because Matías' Pokemon all seem to be clutching it with these invisible focus sashes.
Yeah, it looks like a Kowtow Cleave now. No boost, but Terra Dark boosted. It's going to deal quite a bit, but it's not enough for that Primarina, which is going to go for the Polar Pop and pick up the remaining little sliver of health from this King Gambit. And I think at this point, King Gambit was a really big threat to Matías' team, and now it's just being removed. The Primarina on Geovanni's side is very heavily damaged, and it's just going to be outsped by the Rillaboom. So Rillaboom in quite a nice position, can go for maybe a fake out onto the Amoonguss, but of course, actually no, wouldn't want to do that, I don't think, because this is a Rocky Helmet Amoonguss. So I think the Rillaboom is it's going to not really care about the Among Us and maybe just want to prioritize on getting rid of the Primarina so that Geovanni is not knocked down to his final 2 Pokemon.
Yeah, that's definitely a very good choice. And as we see here, I don't think they wanted to take any recoil from that Rocky Helmet and chose to switch out, considering the terrain setup anyway. So you might as well switch out to the Magmar, which does tank that Moonblast coming out. So very well played on the side of Matías, and also getting that knockout on the Primarina. And obviously the Among Us was able to tank that.
Yeah, the Among Us picks the correct target for the Spore though, so that's actually quite a nice, because the Primarina is going to be the biggest threat to this Talonflame, and now that it's being put to sleep, that buys 1 turn for Geovanni to maybe go for something like a Taunt or start just going for Brave Birds. This is a sharp big Talonflame, so it will be doing quite a lot of damage, and actually I think the Moonblast onto that Magmar, getting that -1 special attack, might be quite critical, because now this Magmar is not going to be able to knock out this Among Us with the Overheat in 1 hit, unless it's a critical hit.
Yeah, and it's possible that Geovanni just goes for the Brave Bird and then the side Pollen Puff to reset that Gale Wings and to keep the Talonflame healthy, considering it does not benefit from the grassy terrain. But choosing the wrong target here, the Magmar was able to safely protect itself. And that's the first assured turn of sleep from Primarina being burned, but the Pollen Puff does indeed go to the side, but making no healing considering that Talonflame was healthy to begin with. And on the side of Matías, benefiting from that grassy terrain that he set up prior to now. So that Primarina is definitely going to be able to survive damage for at least a couple of turns because of that.
Yeah, Primarina, it's about a matter of time before it wakes up, but it's not terribly, I think it hasn't even consumed its citrus berry yet, so there needs to be quite a few turns of using Brave Birds on this Primarina, because Geovanni at this point, it's going to be the Primarina, the Talonflame is the only offensive option for Geovanni, so he has to be very, very careful with preserving it. And it looks like Among Us keeping itself safe. Well, Primarina gets the 1 turn wake up. And look how much damage is this Hyper Voice going to do to it.
I think it should be enough. And because Talonflame is not the bulkiest Pokemon either, so very well played on the side of Matías, especially with that switch out to reset the special attack on the Magmar. So that Overheat just has to land now onto the Among Us, and that should just be enough to clean out this game.
Yeah.
So,
but even if it doesn't land, I don't think this Among Us with no poison.
Yeah, it's not winning this.
Primarina. So I think Geovanni does see the writing on the wall and is going to forfeit the match. And